Mr. Harmon, will you take the roll?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Prohl, he did contact me and will be absent tonight. Commissioner Simmons.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Vice Chair Frost.
Present.
Chairman Pranzo.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Okay. Old business, there isn't any. New business.
Now, you skipped minutes.
Oh, I did. How could I possibly do that? My goodness. All right. Open it up to the commission. Do we have any comments, suggestions, dislikes?
Just one, if I could, Mr. Chairman. On page 204, the second paragraph, about 6 or 7 lines down, it says, he explained the road lost 14 feet, and it is a 28-foot wide paved street. I'm not quite sure what that means, that lost 14 feet. I think if we struck that part, we'll be okay. Because I think there is 28 feet of pavement there, but the losing 14 feet, I'm not quite sure how that applied.
I'm not sure either off the top of my head. So why don't we just strike it?
Yeah, so I think if you strike it, you'll probably be okay.
Please point exactly where you are.
Road lost 14 feet.
And so we're just striking the part that says the road lost 14 feet. Is that correct?
Or just the whole sentence, either one. I mean, let's just do the whole sentence.
Well, there is 28 feet wide of paved area, of actual asphalt pavement. I think that's what the comment was about.
That's fine.
And then probably it might help if you keep reading on. It says this is the new standard from 40 feet to 42 feet because it's the new right-of-way standard. So they don't get confused that that's the street width versus, because that's the right-of-way standard, right?
Well, yeah, it widened the sidewalks based on ADA, but yes, overall, it's the new right-of-way standard.
So I wonder if we just need to add right-of-way behind the word new just to clarify that, in case someone reads this and wonders what we were up to. That was my only comment, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let me make sure we have this correct. This is the new right-of-way standard, so we're adding right-of-way, and we are deleting the road lost 14 feet. Is that correct?
Well, I see where they're coming with the road loss. It's because it's a 42-foot wide right-of-way. We got 28 feet of pavement, and the other 14 feet is in curb and sidewalk is what it's referring to, I think.
I just kind of got them out.
Yeah.
The wording.
It's not very clear.
I think the vice chair's change will clarify it simply enough. We didn't have to go into that level of detail, I'm sure.
All right, so one more time. The road lost 14 feet. Are we deleting this?
Yes.
Okay. So I will move that we accept the minutes of October 3rd with the stipulation that on page 2, second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line down, we delete the road lost 14 feet. Same line. Next sentence, we add the words right-of-way. This is the new right-of-way. All those in favor?
So I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So a motion made by Chairman Pranzo, seconded by Vice Chair Frost. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes accepted. Okay. Old business? None. New business? We have presentation, approval, disapproval of a preliminary plat application for Mesquite Trails, Parcel 6, submitted by Silver Fern Companies. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, we do.
Ms. Benitez.
Mesquite Trails, Parcel 6. It's away from the usual Anthem area. It's located, some background. It used to be part of Pinal County, and it was zoned in 2004. It was annexed by Florence in 2005. And that was also when the master plan for Mesquite Trails, formerly known as Mesquite Grove, but now it's Mesquite Trails. It was recorded, but then it was modified in 2017 to include and accommodate the north-south corridor, as well as the wash that runs through the PUD. The original PUD from 2004 called for a maximum of about 2,176 single-family residential lots. Moving on to today, we have the location off of Felix Road and, is that Heritage? East of Heritage. And we are specifically looking at parcel 6 as highlighted in the map. Now, the gross area is 23.76 acres, and the same for the net area. The star kind of shows where the site is based on the wash. We have an open space of 2.74 acres, and total lots is 107 dwelling units. The density is to be 4.5 dwelling units per acre. We're kind of based on last time's request for landscaping. We decided to show landscaping plans for this one. We have a couple of tracks. There's 2 main tracks for parks. Going into detail, this is one of those tracks that'll have some facilities for the residents. And on the second one, here is the other main tract.
One of the points to make on this too, this is parcel or unit 6, as was mentioned. The first 5 have already been approved and final platted and recorded. So it's the developer's intent to do the infrastructure improvements to all 6 of these this first group out of the entire development. Economy of scale, you know, in order to do more work for a little bit less. We do have a representative here of Silver Fern Companies, Amy Waveman, Director of the Forward Planning for the group, if you have any specific questions of the developer.
If I understood this presentation correctly, this PUD goes back to 2005?
4.
4. Do we have it on file?
It's, yeah, what there is of it. The way this one was done, if I might usurp Mari for a moment, this was all approved in the county. And that was in 2004 or prior to 2004. They approached the town in 2005 for annexation, presumably to take advantage of overall infrastructure, water, sewer. And it was annexed, and the PUD, because of the way state law is, the PUD that was approved in the county transferred directly to the town. And we have to annex property based on the closest comparable zoning. And so their PAD became our PUD, but with no real changes. At the time, it was a very simplistic document. It talked about densities and just basic overall acreage breakdown, but did not get into any real specifics like Merrill Ranch has, for example.
Right.
So instead of a comprehensive document like Anthem at Merrill Ranch, it's about a 12-page legal document, most of which is legal jargon and property description, legal description.
So we really don't have any choice in what the PUD presents.
Generally, that's correct.
But it sounds like a document that has a lot of wiggle room in it.
On behalf of the developer, it does.
Okay.
You'll find we're going to be running into that fairly frequently on a number of different PUDs that have been dormant for the last 10, 12 years as they come forward again.
How long are they legally dormant?
There's no real time frame on some of them. Depends on how the documents were written and if they were done in the town or in the county. Some are, they expire after 10 years. Some will expire after 20 years. This one, from what I have found, has no expiration on it.
Lives on in perpetuity.
Yeah, it'll outlive you and I, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's not hard to do. Okay, well, I'll turn it over to the commission. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple.
Please.
So just to, Marty, in the presentation, you said that things were rearranged to accommodate the freeway alignment. Is that what, on our exhibit, that number 7 up there in the far north? Okay, so that's freeway alignment. Okay, that makes sense then. Then you said that the site is not within a 100-year floodplain, and I agree with that. I looked it up on the FEMA maps. But because of that wash coming through there and the fact that about 1,500 cubic feet per second is coming through there, eventually that will be. So I guess this is maybe directed towards the representative back there. Is your engineer accounting for that future potential and probability that it will be a 100-year floodplain and reserving ample room for it to occur?
Chairman, Vice Chair, yes, we have an engineer that has actually relooked at the drainage throughout. We actually have some challenges with drainage to the north that was not accounted for in the original calculations. So that is adjusting some of the grades along the drainage channel that goes through there. So we're making sure that we've addressed that.
Okay.
Let me interrupt. Can we have your name and company for the record?
Sorry, Amy Weidman, I'm with Silverburn Companies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll note, since some of these have already been final platted and recorded, and as part of those, there was an initial master drainage plan that is being modified and will be going through a full review process before any building permits are going to be issued or any construction permits.
Awesome. Yeah, I noted that on the aerial photo that I copied out, that I got today, that there is drainage coming from the north through the site, which I didn't see accommodated. So thank you. I appreciate that. Another question or comment too. Would you mind going about to the second or third slide from the end of your presentation? Right there. Well, one more. That's good, right there. And I just want this to be very complimentary. I see that you are not landscaping the slopes here. And I think that is an awesome thing because they're unplayable, unusable, but we tend to landscape them with a high water use turf, and that makes no sense at all. So I'm complimenting you on just grassing the lower area where people will actually play. Thank you very much. On the plat, I noted that one of the exhibits that you gave us here is just sort of the schematic of the hydrology. And in your retention calculations, this will just have to go back to your engineer, you show a runoff coefficient of 0.65. Down in your table that you put down, you have a runoff coefficient of 0.63, although the math reflects a 0.65. So that's just your answer won't, your answer won't change, but it's just something that probably should be corrected before it gets too far out there.
I might, just a note to clarify that, Mr. Frost, you're absolutely correct, first of all. But second, this is all preliminary.
Right.
This all has to, before the final plat goes in front of the council, those details will have to be worked out.
Right. I just saw it, so I thought I'd better note it. And then one last thing, and this is just kind of, I guess, for us up here, is you note in this one that the right-of-ways are 50 feet.
I'll go over that with you on the next item.
Okay. And that was it. I think it's looking good as it's coming together from what little I've been able to see here. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept, send to the council for their approval. The Mesquite Trail Parcel 6, PZ 1922, for approval as submitted.
To include staff recommendations?
To include staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, second by Vice Chair Frost. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Presentations, Anthem at Merrill Ranch, Parkside Family Amenities. Can't wait.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this was a discussion that was raised at the last meeting, so I thought I'd kind of go over a few of them with you. Keeping in mind, this, like all of the PUDs that I've inherited, this one was approved in 2005 in the town. It was amended in 2008, and then there was a clarification, I think, last year or in 17, but it really didn't affect this stuff all that much. But the Parkside area, the family area, does have some significant amenities throughout it, and that's actually ahead of this, where I wanted to be. Let me start at the beginning. What a concept. The Parkside, right off of Merrill Ranch Parkway, has a very significant community center that's been laid out with courts, indoor facilities, outdoor pool, etc. Immediately across to the east, this is the community center itself. None of these facilities were required by the PUD. The PUD is generic, is even too specific a word for what type of facilities they were required to place in there. So basically, I think they've done a pretty good job of providing stuff out here for the families that are going in the area. But anyway, this is right across from the community center. There's a small outdoor performing amphitheater, play fields. I think, was that a Diamondback ball field? Somebody sponsored that one. I can't remember who it was and provided it for the facility. That's the playground facility that you see on the kind of the west end on the left side there, along with the water feature around it. Then elsewhere throughout the existing areas, there'll be pocket parks, is what we commonly refer to as you go through. You'll notice that it stretches from street to street, from Hudson all the way to the west to the next street. Throughout all these developments I noticed out here as I was going more detail, and it was part of their PUD, there are walkway systems that are interconnected. They do cross streets, but they don't parallel the streets, so they're internal to the development. If you notice where the park is in this particular one, there's a kind of a pathway or open space system that falls down behind that row of houses and through that area. And I'm sure that a lot of it has to do with the drainage and moving water through that area, but they've tried to keep it in a natural state. They have supplemented it in certain areas, and this walking system is throughout the development. Just typical playground equipment, and then the retention area for open field activities. Elsewhere, off closer to Hunt Highway and north of American Way, again, you can see there's little pockets of green throughout the development at the intersections. Most of those are retention, but they are well landscaped and maintained. The one that I've highlighted, for example, gets into more detail, has some playground equipment, ramada, things that the community can use. And they're very well maintained at this point, sitting areas to watch the children, things of that nature. Another one up off of Merrill Ranch Parkway, up towards Independence Way. This one is visible from Merrill Ranch Parkway. Again, significant playground equipment, ramada. There's even a barbecue grill in some of these. That one in particular has one. And then a certain amount of shade structures that have been tied to the parks. There are some that are still in the design stages right now that have come through. I'm trying to remember, that was unit 55. That's going through final platting. That one, you can see the convergence of 4 cul-de-sacs going into where the central park is located there. And some of the plans for it, there's playground equipment, landscaping, open play areas. Some is turf, some of it is in DG. It also connects to the walking system within the entire development, and then gets into detail on the types of equipment that'll be in there. And then as we get final plats through, and that's where the landscaping and these types of improvements are required, or is at final plat stage, along with all the engineering drawings that have to be reviewed and approved prior to us taking any final plat to council. So that's fairly typical throughout. The other part, just to clarify some things after our last discussion, this is the current cross-section out in, for the local roadways out in Merrill Ranch. This will be the same general cross-section as far as the street is concerned, the Mesquite Trails. It'll just be a difference in the way it's handled. In Anthem, the roadway is 28 feet plus the rolled curb gutter, then 5 foot of sidewalk was mentioned to meet ADA requirements. That gets us to 42 feet of right-of-way. Now, in places, and this was tied to the PUD, this is, I guess, agreed upon back in '05 or '08, that this would be the cross-section of local streets. Now, Mesquite Trails, for example, it's a 50-foot. If you notice on the outside edges of this one, there's a 9-foot PUE, which is a public utility easement, and that's where the utilities will go. On where there's a 50-foot right-of-way, those utilities will be within the right-of-way itself, and there is no PUD outside of that, or PUE outside of it. So that's kind of where the difference is. So here we're actually getting 60 feet of space to work with as far as putting in the underground utilities in the roadway and everything else. The cross-section of the street is the same, whether it's in a 50-foot or if it's in the 42 with the easements. So that I just wanted to kind of, clarify that as I've been explained to me. And this is one of the other local street cross sections. And again, this is what you would see more generally. This is what Pinal County has. It's 50 foot of right of way, but it's the same cross section. There they measured it out as 32 feet, but that includes the rolled curb on either side. So anyway, just wanted to kind of clarify and show you the different dimensions on it. If you need more detail or want to get into it any further, we'd be happy to invite the town engineer to discuss it, but I just wanted to kind of put these up on the screen so that you can have some context with them.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Larry, I'm looking at the detail, the plats that we just looked at, the preliminary plats, and it looks like they have 50 feet of right-of-way and an 8-foot PUE on both sides, which is what I've been.
Yeah, and that's what was required. That matches all the other ones that are in Mesquite Trails, so we're continuing that throughout.
And that's what I see
Yeah.
in my previous experience. And you reserve the right-of-way for municipal things.
Right.
And the PUE is where your electrical and communications and things like that go.
And no argument. I mean, that's the way it's done a lot of different places. But this particular one in Merrill Ranch, again, this was negotiated as part of their PUD and their development agreement back in '05 and '08.
So we're stuck with it, in other words.
Basically, I mean, we could request it to be reviewed and negotiated, but the likelihood of cooperation, I think, would be fairly slim.
Yeah, like somewhere between 0 and it's not going to happen.
I would not disagree. So anyway, since that came up, and I mean, we did talk about it tonight on a different project, and so there is a difference between them. I just wanted to clarify it.
And I guess I brought up the pocket parks, and particularly on the park side, which is the family side of the development. I'm a firm believer that if you're going to put those in, they should be within a reasonable walking distance for a young mother with a stroller and little children. And there are areas within Parkside where, although the pocket park exists, it's a long ways away.
For some of the other development areas, but again, their PUD was.
For the subdivision I live in, for example.
Oh, I see.
So, not that we have little kids anymore, but we do have grandkids that come in. Fortunately, we're on the end of the subdivision where it's not too great of a walk. It's only maybe about 200 or 300 yards to it, but other people on the other end of it, you would never be able to, in a convenient way, walk to it. So I guess that's what I wanted us and staff to look for, is if they're going to be putting those pocket parks in, let's make them within a reasonable walking distance so that young mothers and young families can use them like they're supposed to be used. And if we're going to be putting turf in, I think one of my pet peeves, and I'll just voice it, is unusable turf that's just there for aesthetics. Narrow valleys that are turfed, the only thing you can do in them is walk a dog. They're not usable for people unless you get some size to them so that a kid can throw a ball or a frisbee or do something. And putting turf on a slope of a retention basin doesn't make any sense at all, because it's just wasted water.
And we agree. And so, the final plats that we've been reviewing more recently that are going through, we're paying more and more attention to that. And there are some other PUDs that are reactivating, that are revising their master plans, et cetera. And that's one of the major concerns that staff has had, is how they're laying out their recreational facilities within either the larger scale parks or the pocket parks, how they're interconnected, keeping kids and families off the street, going from one to another or coming from one development area to another, trying to minimize street crossings, things of that nature. We have a couple of them that are reactivating a little further north. Those have been some very significant parts of the discussion.
I'm all for turf as long as it's playable turf and it's not on slopes, because slopes aren't playable. And it's big enough. I mean, it seems like it's got to be at least 50 feet in width in order to do something in with your kids, or for the kids to throw something around as well, run around in. So little narrow swaths of turf to me is kind of like, why even have it?
Correct, I agree.
Good. Thanks.
Okay, let's move along.
Get off my pedestal now.
Redevelopment plan.
Okay, you kind of had your update over the last hour and a half. You're going to get more bites at that apple. This was just like the first introduction to the community on how this is moving forward and the types of work that's going into the update of the plan. There have been some focus groups discussions where we've pulled a cross-section of downtown property owners and businesses to talk about housing. There was a group on certain types of business. There was a group on historic preservation and a group on focus and streetscape and things of that nature. So that occurred. Some of the information you saw this evening was a summary of that, but this is still preliminary and it's a work in progress. It still has 5 months to go, 6 months to go before final. There'll be additional public meetings like that one was. We are looking at orchestrating a joint work session with you all and the Historic District Advisory Commission, since you both will be integral players in how this is implemented. Implementation strategies are still coming out of this based on all the various discussions. So basically, this is a step in the process.
I have a comment and a question. My initial impression, the presentation by the person who led it off, I don't remember her name, felt rather headstrong. So it makes me raise an eyebrow and wonder, how well is the interface between this consultant and the town staff working?
Quite actually, it's been a pretty comfortable relationship. I know that individual personally and have for many years. And she is kind of headstrong because she has a lot of background and experience, and she wants to, quite frankly, force participation. If she's one of those people that if she says something you don't agree with, then challenge her. She's not going to be one of those people that cater to.
I did challenge her tonight, a couple of times.
And we're going to have more opportunities to do that. So from that standpoint, I'm kind of comfortable with her at this point. We can rein her in any time. That's not an issue.
Well, what made me uncomfortable is that as I look at redevelopment, I think of, and maybe this is just a misconception on my part, but I look at it as trying to breathe life into what we already have. And when we start presenting new construction outside of what we already have, it feels like we've gone outside the envelope to try and satisfy our client, which is not where I want to go.
I think we'll see both of those elements, though, take place just because there's enough vacant property within that area, within that designated area. And so we're going to be addressing the vacant property as how that can be developed with certain types of land use that complement what is already there and hopefully be an impetus for the resurgence of the empty buildings.
Well, out of the whole thing, if we can get staff and town organizations to grab onto one thing, just one, and make it work, I will be a happy camper.
I understand completely. I've been a part of these in other communities over the years, and you're exactly right.
So we need that one thing to ring true, to be easy to understand and ring true.
Absolutely agree. And that's kind of part of the goal of this whole project is to let's figure out what that one thing is that's going to trigger people's imagination, their participation, and in their endorsement as we go through this. I was really encouraged to see the gentleman from the Legion there because they were at, one of them was at the focus group, and he was not one of the best participants. This new leadership
Oh,
over there.
Maldonado is, well, he's a New York boy.
Yeah, but he's a go-getter. I'm happy that he's a part of this now.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, is people with that type of a mentality who are going to be willing to step up and say, okay, let's do this.
Well, the Legion has become quite active.
Yeah.
In fact, tomorrow night, there'll be a steak
Oh,
dinner
steak fry, yeah,
thing right there on Main Street.
cool.
Y'all should come out. It's a nice evening, actually.
Unfortunately, I'll be doing the same thing in Wickenburg instead. But anyway,
Anything else on the redevelopment plan?
we'll be keeping you updated, and especially with the any upcoming public meetings and scheduling for dates as we move forward.
But one more point, a handout would have went a long way tonight.
Well, like you noted, though, there were a few holes that they want to fill in with more current data. You will get that presentation once it's been upgraded, probably within the next week or two.
Great.
I'm going to forward to everybody that left their email on the sign-in sheet, and/or those of you who I know your emails already.
Yeah, I guess you do. All right, general plan update.
That's been through a solicitation, interviews, detailed scope of work has been negotiated. It goes in front of the council Monday night for award of contract. Now that it's actually been published, the recommended design team is Michael Baker International. They have a lot of knowledge of this area. They did the Santan Valley Master Plan for the county. They're doing our regional, the Florence Regional Transportation Plan currently. And they did the active transportation plan for Parks and Recreation that you all were involved with, 2 work sessions on that, as I recall. So they're very knowledgeable about the community and have a lot of data already collected so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Excellent. All right, future agenda items. I drool. What is coming?
If you wish to be there Monday night, well, let me back up. The council is adding more work sessions to their calendar. So they're looking at doing a work session prior to each council meeting, starting at 5 o'clock, plus the 4th Monday of the month will be an evening dedicated to work session type items. This coming Monday night, the 21st, 5 o'clock, this room will be a discussion of the north-south corridor, which is one of the items that you've brought up prior to get more detail and more information on. So that hour is going to be spent focused on the north-south corridor. At the end of that, if you still want further presentation, I will arrange it, hopefully for your next agenda, if you can make that meeting.
Larry, say again when that is?
I'm sorry?
This coming Monday?
It's coming Monday night,
It's from
5 to 6?
from 5 to 6,
right here?
right here. And of course, it's a work session in council, it's open to the public. Also, we're arranging for the presentation on water for your next meeting. We have 3 reapprovals of preliminary plats for Anthem. They were approved some years, 13, I want to say, plus or minus. Theirs are on the west side of Hunt Highway, north of Mill Ranch Parkway. So they're just coming in for a reapproval, but the only change will be that the right-of-way is wider. Otherwise, it's the same basic layouts. They just allowed them to expire. So they will be coming back, and that's it for the 7th.
Wonderful. Okay, call to the public. We have no public. Call to the commission, current events only.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Please.
This Monday is stacking up to be a lot of fun. Monday at 1:30 in the Board of Supervisors chambers, there will be a legislative committee meeting talking about water in Pinal County.
At 1:30?
1:30 in the Board of Supervisors room here at the 1891 Historic Courthouse. Mr. Cook, Representative Cook, is chairing that committee, and I think he has 5 or 6 other members from the House of Representatives that are going around with him, as well as the Director of Water Resources. They've met once at the state capitol. They met a week ago in Casa Grande, and they are meeting this coming Monday here in Florence, and they'll have one more meeting after that before session starts.
They have any kind, like a title of what they're calling this?
It's just it's a legislative subcommittee dealing with Pinal
Okay,
area water resources, and particularly groundwater and assured water supply, some of the things that you heard expressed across the street of concern. So if you're interested in water in the area, that would be a good, fun one to attend.
Any other current events?
Oh, just while you're talking about that, you talked about an American Legion, something going on
I
tomorrow.
was just getting ready to do it.
You're a
Don't
good man.
steal
You're a
my
good man.
thunder.
I don't know what it's about. I want to hear about it.
Okay, well, there's a steak fry tomorrow night. Starts at 6 p.m. Stores open on Main Street until 8 p.m. And this, I understand, is going to become a monthly doings.
good.
So winter's coming. I know the winter visitors are coming because I came back from Phoenix today and it took a hell of a lot longer to get here. And a good time can be had by all. Any other?
Who's sponsoring
Legion? Oh, no, it's not the Legion. It is the posse. You're right.
The monthly posse steak dinner.
Yeah.
And where were they going to hold that?
Right here on Main Street,
Okay.
6th and Main. Any other current events? Well then, may I have a motion for adjournment?
I will move to adjourn.
I second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.